Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into something I think a lot of us can relate to on a deep level, the psychology of hating small talk. And trust me, it's not about being rude or antisocial. The real reasons are so much more interesting than that.
You know that feeling, right? You're stuck in an elevator or you're waiting for a Zoom call to start, and suddenly you're talking about the weather, and you can practically feel your soul slowly packing its bags and heading for the exit. If that sounds familiar, then what we're about to go through is really going to click for you.
So, busy week? Nice weather we're having. Working hard or hardly working? These are the phrases that are basically the soundtrack to our social nightmares. They just feel so hollow, you know? Like conversational static before the real program is supposed to begin. But what if for some people, it feels like the real program never starts?
Okay, so let's get right into it. Before we can get to the real psychology, we've got to clear the air. People who try to avoid small talk get hit with all sorts of unfair labels. So let's just bust a few of the biggest myths right now. All right, first up is this big one. The idea that if you sidestep the chit-chat, you must think you're too good for it, or maybe even too good for the person you're talking to. The assumption is that you're just aloof and you're looking down on what they call simple conversation. And then, of course, there's this one: you must just hate people, period. If you don't want to talk about traffic or your weekend plans, you must be some kind of recluse who'd rather be alone in a cabin in the woods. This one completely, totally misses the point. And finally, we have probably the most common mix-up of them all, just lumping it in with shyness, but they're not the same thing at all. See, shyness is usually rooted in social anxiety, a fear of being judged. Hating small talk, though, that's not about fear. It's about preference. They are two fundamentally different things.
So, if it's not about being arrogant or antisocial or just plain shy, what is it then? What if the reason has less to do with a personality flaw and a whole lot more to do with how a person's brain is actually wired?
And that brings us to the first huge piece of this puzzle, the cognitive cost. For a massive group of people, small talk isn't easy, it's not relaxing, it's work. Like hard work.
And this is absolutely crucial to understand. For some people, that superficial conversation doesn't build energy, it drains it, and it drains it fast. You're trying to do a million things at once. You're thinking of the next right thing to say, you're trying to read social cues, all while faking enthusiasm for a topic you couldn't care less about. Let's be honest, it is exhausting.
Now, what's so fascinating here is how this breaks down the sort of cost-benefit analysis that's happening in your brain. So you look at small talk, right? The cognitive load is incredibly high because your brain is scattered, it's multitasking without a clear goal. And the emotional reward you get for all that effort, it's super low. Now compare that to a deep conversation. The cognitive load is focused, not scattered, and the emotional reward is high. You feel connected, you feel understood. For some brains, it's a no-brainer. Small talk is just a bad investment of energy.
And this really gets to the heart of what introversion actually is. It is not a fear of people. It's about energy management. Introverts often find those high-stimulation environments, like a party that's just buzzing with small talk, to be completely draining. They recharge with quiet or with meaningful interaction, not by avoiding humans altogether.
But, it's not just about the brain's energy budget, it's also about what the heart is actually looking for. And that brings us to our second big reality, a deep, fundamental craving for genuine connection.
This just reframes the whole thing, doesn't it? The aversion to small talk isn't a negative trait. It's actually the flip side of a very positive one, a profound appreciation for authenticity. It's a desire to skip all the fluff and get straight to what's real.
I like to think of conversations in 3 levels. So, level 1 is the surface stuff, the weather, how your commute was. Level 2 is sharing facts, information. But level 3, that's the core. That's where you share ideas, vulnerabilities, passions. People who hate small talk often feel trapped at level 1, and they're just desperately trying to find a shortcut to level 3.
This quote just says it all, perfectly. We're often told that small talk is a social lubricant, that it's a bridge to connect with other people. But for those who crave depth, it feels like the exact opposite. It feels like a pointless, frustrating wall that you have to climb just to get to the real conversation on the other side.
So where does all this leave us? Well, hopefully it leaves us with a much more empathetic and, frankly, a much more accurate understanding of what's going on. It's time to move beyond judging different communication styles and maybe start appreciating the different ways that people try to connect.
So, to wrap it all up, the next time you meet someone who seems to avoid that easy chit-chat, just remember the real reasons. It's not arrogance. It's about managing their cognitive energy.
It's a deep preference for authentic connection. It's a search for meaning in our interactions. And honestly, it's about cognitive efficiency. They're not being rude. They're just trying to have a conversation that actually matters.
And so I want to leave you with a little challenge. The next time you're about to ask about the weather, just pause. What's one slightly deeper question you could ask instead? Something that might skip past the surface and maybe, just maybe, open the door to a real connection. Think about it.